If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. As you know from many of my other videos, a beginning point that I have when I work therapeutically with individuals is that when you walk into my office, you're going to be in the presence of someone who believes in your worth as a human being. That's just a starting point that I have as I engage with people. And to me, that's not a very complicated thought. You deserve to be treated with honor. You deserve to be listened to. And whether I agree or disagree with you, I still want to give you a willing ear so that I can hear you as fully as possible. That's how we operate. Now, unfortunately, there are plenty of individuals in your world who don't operate with that kind of thinking, though. And the narcissists, of course, are at the front of the line of the ones who will say, worth, dignity, you don't have any of that stuff when you're in my presence. You have to earn it from me. And over time, they can come at you so strongly with messages of rejection and with messages of contempt and disdain that it leaves you feeling traumatized. You're a person who deserves to be treated well, but they give you so many messages on so many different occasions from so many angles that tell you the otherwise that it's after a while, it's like, I don't know which end is up. And you begin to lose confidence in yourself. You begin to question the decency that you bring to the equation. And then when other folks do come along and say nice things about you, the narcissist is waiting to let it be known, well, they don't know you like I do. How many times have you experienced something like that? And then what's worse, and we're going to get to this in just a couple of minutes, when you eventually are onto them and you let it be known, you know what, I don't want to be on the receiving end of your rejection anymore, they'll double down and they'll say, it's not you that has the relationship or rejection trauma, it's me. I'm the victim here. And then they'll play that card, they'll flip it all around and keep you in your state of confusion. But before we get to that, I want you to just be thinking about some of the messages that you hear or have insinuated that come from the narcissist toward you, because it's going to be so important for you to realize what they're thinking and what they bring, and it'll help you recognize how to deal with their manipulative gaslighting statements later on. For example, how many times has that person either said or insinuated, you disgust me? Now, I guess that very few of you, if any at all, can say that you live up to that or down to that low level of disgust, but that's the message they give you. You disgust me. You don't deserve that. Or another message they'll very consistently come at you with is, you have so many problems. Where do we even begin trying to figure out somebody as messed up as you? I'm sure you hear that plenty. Or in addition, you may hear awful messages like, you know what? You exist to satisfy my lustful urges. What are you going to do for me now? Or, and I know some of you have lots of trauma based on things like that. Or you exist to satisfy my hunger for dominance, and I'm not going to let you forget it. I'm dominant and you have to be the underling. No further discussion. I'm sure you've heard some of those kind of messages. Or the implication in the way they treat you is, I'm the taker. You're the giver. What are you going to give me now? They're constantly looking for supply from you. Or you may hear the message or have it insinuated, you will never, ever be able to live up to my expectations. And it hurts when you know that somebody thinks that poorly of you, and it's reinforced over and over. Or it could be that they might even go so far as to say, you know, the world would be a better place without you in it. I know some of you have heard that kind of message. And it's so disheartening when you have to be on the receiving end and thinking, well, this is somebody who I used to put my trust in. Why are they talking to me this way? Or they might further that kind of message and say, yeah, and you'd be nothing without me. I'm the power broker here. Don't you forget it. And then they may also imply, you think that other people like you. I know better. They don't like you. And when you hear that often enough, it takes away your sense of resolve. And that's that rejection trauma that I'm talking to you about. Now, these kind of messages that I'm referring to here can be accompanied with anger and with harshness and insults, lots of criticism. Sometimes there can be messages that are of the covert message or of the covert nature, where maybe they just refuse to speak to you whenever you want to engage in meaningful dialogue, or they may act real nice to you in public, and then when you're gone from the public and you're behind the scenes, they just criticize you left and right. Sometimes they'll make jokes at your expense, or it could be that you'll get micro-aggressive looks from them. You know, that snarl, that stare. Or they may huff whenever you offer an idea, and they'll just give you the ghosting treatment. All of this is a form of brainwashing, frankly. And it's their way of saying, I want you to know you're a nobody. And over and over and over, no matter how strong you may have been, and no matter how well spoken you are and how good you are in the way that you engage with people, when you're on the receiving end of enough of that, it takes you down, and it can take you down to a pretty low place. You can become anxious or depressive. You can have insecurities, low self-esteem. I've heard every story in the book on those kind of things. Now, here's where I go and say where they start playing games with you. Let's suppose that you think, wait a minute, stop. I'm done with this. I don't want to be on the receiving end. So you hold yourself up enough to where you'll say, I'm standing up for myself. You, Mr. or Mrs. Narcissist, you're the one who's making trouble. You're causing the trauma. And then they'll double down and say, you have got to be kidding me. I'm not the problem. You're the problem. In fact, look at how miserable you are making my life. I'm the victim here. And so many of them will play that game, and so many of them are so good, and it's its own form of gaslighting. And then what they're basically saying is, I have a certain amount of supply that I was counting on from you, and you didn't give it to me. But the implication is, how dare you have a thought or a feeling or a desire or a need that differs from me? How dare you? Or you're just trying to control me, aren't you? And they're flipping that script pretty obviously on you. Or you are such an awful human being when you become angry. Of course, they say nothing about how they poured the kerosene and struck the match to get you angry in the first place. Or I know that you've been out there trying to smear my campaign, and I've got another thing for you to know, and that is, it is not going to work because people are going to know how bad you are. I'm not going to let you ruin me. And then they'll just more or less conclude, nobody has treated me worse than you do. I'm the victim here. And I'm hoping that as you understand all of this dysfunction that they have, first of all, when they give you these messages of rejection and disgust, that you'll recognize, I don't want to receive that. And then when they flip it and say they're the victim, I'm sure hoping that you'll decide, wait just a minute, I'm still not playing into that. Now, first and foremost, you don't need to try to argue your point with these individuals, because you can't reason with an unreasonable person. Let's keep in mind they're hiding behind their own false self, and in order to do so, they have to make up the facts as they go along. It's what we call their alternate reality. It's just whatever truth they need to hold on to prop up their weak ego. They're quite willing to do that. One of the things I'm hoping you're going to be willing to do is to pull back and get some objectivity. First, it can be quite helpful for you to consult with people that you do trust, whether it's a therapist or whether it's a support group or a good friend that's known you for quite some time, who's truly made an effort to know you from the inside out. What do those kind of individuals who have a seasoned sense of understanding, what do they think about you, and how can they break things down with you? And it can be so refreshing when you have somebody that says, well, I believe in you, let me understand you more fully. And I'm hoping you'll expose yourself to that. That's why I refer people to counseling so much, because it's so necessary at times to get those unnecessary and those inappropriate messages out of your head. And then beyond that, I'm hoping you can realize, as you're trying to recover from this kind of trauma, rejection trauma, you're dealing with a master manipulator. This is what they do, and it's all for their own self-serving needs. And so let's make sure that we go back to the basics. It is in fact true that you have worth. And this egotistical, lying bully is completely disqualified from pronouncing any kind of judgment over you. I hope you hear that. This egotistical, lying bully is completely disqualified from pronouncing judgment over you. That being the case, you're going to need to generate as much distance as you can from this individual so that you can find the necessary emotional rehab. And so I'm hoping that you'll avail yourself to counseling or accountability or good friendships and activities with people who do take the time to know you. Perhaps you'll learn some things about meditation and finding your sense of peace and slowing down so that you don't have to have their words ringing in your head. I'm hoping you can re-socialize with people who do appreciate you. Exercise, diet, those kind of things. All of that goes into the making of self-care. And make sure that that is what you're committed to. Understanding that this narcissistic individual who's pronouncing all of these trauma-inducing messages toward you is seen for the imposter that he or she is. The bottom line is it's inexcusable for one human being to speak words of rejection and trauma into another human being in the way that narcissists, and especially the malignant narcissists, do. Practice self-care. Recognize the validity of your self-preservation efforts and stand in it. And I do hope that videos such as this give you some good food for thought. And I know that you can feel so weary, but I also hope you know that there is hope ahead of you. If you've not already subscribed, I would ask you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we'll have more videos coming your way, and there's a notification bell. In addition, if you do need some counseling, I would strongly encourage you to seek it out. If you have a desire, we have a sponsor whose link is below that could provide online counseling for you. And the reason I've aligned with them is because I know that they have a good reputation. There's a whole host of licensed professional counselors that you can choose from, and I would strongly encourage you to get the counseling that you need. In addition, we also have my courses. My Free to Be course about discovering yourself despite the controllers. This is me, and it's about setting boundaries. And these are multiple videos that go inside each course with teaching and questions and all like that that's meant to guide you in a therapeutic kind of way. We also have our webinars, my books, and other kinds of media that you can find us on. Plenty of resources below. I know that you can feel some form of rejection trauma when you've been with this person, but I also know that I'm going to go back to my basic. You're a person of worth. You deserve to be treated with worth, and it starts with you giving yourself worthy thoughts and beliefs and initiatives. That being the case, I hope that you can follow through on that to the extent that you'll say, I want to be a person of steadiness. I want to be a person of civility so that I can live inside my peace.